Thank you. Thank you, Ted. I'm totally old school, and I have little flashcards to make sure that I don't forget to tell you all of this information. But yes, I would first and foremost like to tell you how I ended up here. So I am not the regular yoga teacher. I am the sub-yoga teacher because the real yoga teacher, well, the regular yoga teacher had a baby. He's on paternity leave. And so I'm the stand-in. And the first day that I stand in, Nicole says, why don't you stay for lunch? We're going to have a conversation about some of the issues in San Francisco. You had lemonade food. I wanted to stay for the lemonade food. And they turned to me and they said in the beginning of the session, can you introduce yourself? And I was like, no, because I don't know blockchain and all of you are Web3 people and I don't know what I'm going to say. And I said, I'm your yoga teacher, but I also work in recovery, tech recovery. And someone said, you mean data recovery? And I was like, no. I mean addiction. And everybody's heads turned. And I was like, I've said something wrong. And then they started the meeting and they said, we're here to talk about homelessness and drug addiction. And I was like, you end up in the right place at the right time if you just keep saying yes. And so we're all here at the right place at the right time because we kept saying yes, right? So in March of 2020, I woke up in a hospital. There was a doctor looking at me. He said, you came in with a 0.54 blood alcohol level. I can't stabilize your blood pressure. I'm pretty sure you're about to have a stroke. And then he said, you're 34 years old. I shouldn't be able to do this, but I called your father because he has the right to say goodbye. And then he turned around to leave, and before he left, he said, none of my nurses should have to see this. And he left. And the next day, I woke up in rehab. It was March 17th of 2020, and California went into lockdown. Wow. And as Ted so wonderfully told me, California went into lockdown, and I got to come out of mine. I had been in and out of recovery houses and sober living houses for 16 years. I started going to rehab at age of 18 by the push of my high school. So this was a really big deal. But I came out of rehab and the world had kind of closed. So I'm going to talk for a few other minutes, but if you take nothing away from this talk, I just want you to know that this is the face of severe drug and alcohol addiction, right? Sometimes we tend to other the people that we're helping, right? It's those people over there. It's no. They are our brothers, our sisters. They are the people standing in front of you, right? They are your best friends. There are so many different aspects to us. And really the only reason that I'm standing in front of you right now is because I had safety net after safety net after safety net. Because I knew how to access resources. I knew how to ask for help. And when I reached my hand out for help, I was met with assistance rather than resistance. And that was really my story. But I get to live on Eddy Street. I live on Eddy Street in Hayes Valley. And Eddy and Van Ness is one of the hardest hit corners, right? It is a thoroughfare. It's like right there. And I have to make that turn quite often. And I have to tell you, every single time I do, I get to look at someone and think, there, but for the grace of God go I. There, but for the grace of God go I. And it revitalizes why I do the work that I do, that I get to do the work that I do, right? So I came out of rehab and the world was in isolation. The one thing that I needed was community. And that was nowhere to be found. Right? People were isolated in their homes. They had started creating these little pods or insulating themselves. And what was totally available at that time? Alcohol. It could be delivered to your front door in 20 minutes, right? It was quicker most of the time than getting food, right? So people were really closing in on themselves. It was thankfully one of the things that I got to work with big companies with later on. But while that was happening, I was in deep trouble. Right? I knew if I went out again, I wasn't going to come back in, especially in a world that was in isolation. And right across the street, actually, in this same complex, there is a yoga studio. And I went to the yoga studio. I had been doing yoga for quite a while. And I went to the owner, who is also in recovery. He's a vet. And I said, if we don't find community right now, I'm going to die. And he allowed 15 of us to come into the studio and to practice. We were fully masked. It was 95 degrees in there. We showed up every day, no matter what. I needed that community. I needed a group of people that I was accountable to because I wasn't going to do it for myself, right? I had made that promise to myself so many times and I had broken it. But here were a group of people that I could share experience with, that I could share a win with, that I could share a life experience with. And when I really did not want to show, it's really miserable to do hot yoga with a mask on. Especially for an hour and a half, right? We would go through a couple of masks. It was miserable. I was not going to miss a single session. Those people are my best friends to this day, right? So, I had gone into rehab othering myself. We are a tribal people that need tribal experiences, and addiction is rooted in the shame and othering, mostly of ourselves, but sometimes from the outside community. I want to tell you about a tribe in Africa where when the mothers are pregnant, they go out into the jungle, into the forest, wherever they are, and they don't come back until they learn the song of their baby. And then they come back and they teach the entire tribe the song of their baby. When that baby is born, they sing the song to them. As they grow up, they sing the song to them. And later on in life, if that child does something that steps outside of community guidelines, whatever, instead of shaming and ostracizing and sending them away, they bring them to the center of the town. They bring that child to the center of the town, now an adult, and they sing the song to that child to remind them of who they are, right? That is community. That's how we actually build sustainable change, is that we remind people of their humanity. And what I got to do during isolation was show up with a group of people who reminded me of mine. But I was able to make those changes once again because I knew how to access resources. I knew how to ask for help, and I wasn't denied. That isn't true for everyone who asks for help, is it? It's not even true that most people know how to access the resources that are already available. Kent talks about working in recovery in the Tenderloin. I don't think a lot of people know how to access those resources all the time. Morgan is doing amazing work at the Salvation Army. I'm just going to say, I went to a meeting the other day and a young man came in and he said, I went to the Salvation Army during 2020. For 6 months, he was in that program. They couldn't leave. It's not like a mansion that's like with all the necessities, right? It's a program that's there to teach you resourcefulness and accountability. And he said, I've never found brotherhood like I found in those rooms, right? In that space. That is what I'm talking about, right? We have so many wonderful programs that are already here. And what's really wonderful is the collaboration that's happening in this room. Kent said we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And that's right? We're here to share ideas, to get each other on board. I know nothing about blockchain. Every week, someone else tries to explain a little more piece of it to me. But the one thing I do love is that for someone who comes in to teach the yoga and meditation, which we're going to do a very short meditation in 1 minute, to the people who are building out the systems to make sure there's continuity of care, every single one of us in this room has dedicated ourselves to helping the other, right? And maybe to understanding that there is no other. Because when we place our hands out and we jump, right, we bring those other family members back on board, we remind ourselves that all ships rise with the tide, right? Okay, so I had like all these things I was going to say, but the wonderful presenters before me kind of said it. So I'm going to ask, can I take another minute?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask that we do a meditation together, yeah? I was going to do a grounding meditation. I think we're going to do something different. So if you would like to join me, I would love if you would put your 2 feet on the ground. There we go. Maybe roll your shoulders back, sit up a little taller. And if closing your eyes feels accessible at this moment, go ahead and close your eyes. Soften your face. Let your tongue come away from the roof of your mouth. Exhale all the breath out of your body. Slow and gentle inhale through the tip of the nose. And maybe open the mouth, HA. And in your mind's eye, I'd like you to float up from the chair that you're in right now. Hover over San Francisco, keep going past the cloud level, out past the atmospheric ring, and out into space. And then take your time. There's no gravity there. Let yourself float. Go dance on Saturn's rings. Run your fingers through stardust. Float. Remember your true nature, that you are everything. And in that expanse, we feel the connected frequencies of not just all of us in this room, but of everyone that has ever existed, will ever exist. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. We are all here in the same frequency together. Keeping that largeness, that effervescence in your body. Begin to come back down until you see the ring of the earth, that pale blue marble. Come back through the atmospheric layer. Take a few seconds to play in the clouds. Hover over the outline of San Francisco. Dropping down over the Presidio and then into this room, but don't re-emerge just yet. Floating over your own body, witness the shift in your own perception, your breathing, the way that you associate with the body. Dropping back into this form, go ahead and exhale again. Slow and gentle inhale through the tip of the nose. Open the mouth, HA. As slowly as you can, blink the eyes open. And then if you would humor me, would you look around and find a pair of eyes that you don't know? Maybe just a short acknowledgement, maybe a smile with your eyes. Thank you for letting me lead you. Thank you for letting me tell you my story. What an honor to be here today. Thank you, thank you.